Too many death threats from Zionists. And I think what's hard for me to wrap my head around is this conversation around anti-Semitism and Jewish safety on campus with no regard to the safety of anti-Zionist Jews on campus, right? Because when the National Guard comes or the New York City Police Department comes and brutalizes and beats Jewish students, is anyone on live television, primetime news, talking about that or talking about the safety of Jews who are protesting for the liberation of Palestine getting brutalized? No, then Jewish safety doesn't matter at all. So I don't think this conversation is even about anti-Semitism or Jewish safety, because if you're only focusing on a certain type of Jewish life, then you don't actually care about Jews at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So to that point, and Nova, I'm gonna let you go first. I think you said you were at the UCLA protest. Do you feel like, and again, this is something I'm hearing a lot on some of the various media outlets, do you feel that it is tokenizing the Jewish students that are at the protest to get their perspective and to get their, the perspective on feeling safe or whatever it may be? Is that tokenization, given that there are other Jewish students who are saying that they feel unsafe? How do you feel about that? And then we'll go down to the rest of the panel with that question.
It's kind of a cycle. Like, at first, when people were protesting for Palestine, it was, oh my gosh, you guys are anti-Semitic. And then when we pointed out that Jewish people were also protesting, they called them self-hating Jews. And so it's just a cycle of trying to get people to understand that it's everyone's issue and not just one group of people's issue. And I do think at some point it's a little bit of tokenization, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that we're all trying to make sure that these people have clean water and food to eat.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Nova. We're going to go down to Anira, and then we'll go Taishi, Rach, and then Fed. Do you feel like, so same question for everybody?
Just before I answer your question, Smee, I just want to kind of come back at Rachel, because earlier she gave us a selective and her personal view of what happened there. But Rachel, were you by any chance there when there was anti-Semitic chants by pro-Israel supporters? Because the videos have come out today where Northeastern tried to spin this. Northeastern tried to spin and say it was pro-Palestinian students, but in actual fact, it was pro-Israel supporters who were chanting anti-Semitic slurs. So that's the first thing. Secondly, Smee, I just wanted to answer a few more things. I think what we're completely forgetting is the fact that in history, we have seen so many protests at universities where students have made actual change to things that were happening, whether it was the war in Cambodia, whether it was Vietnam, or even whether it was the divestment of, the investment around South African apartheid. So why is it now that we are sticking to the label of pro-Palestine protests, when in actual fact, what they're doing is using their rights and be anti-protest to stop the G and the unaliving of innocent people in Gaza take place? Why have we changed this now? Because it doesn't suit Israel's narrative, because Israel's finally been exposed for not only its illegal occupation, its oppression, but now the G that is taking place. And with all due respect, when you come into a live, Rachel, actually, no, with no due respect, I take that back. But when you come into a live and you say, I went to the protest, I went there to celebrate, what are you celebrating? The unaliving of Palestinians. You don't think there's going to be certain reactions when you're there dancing and celebrating? What are you celebrating? You're celebrating a government that is unaliving women, children, men on a daily basis, and you expect people not to feel emotional where their family members have been unalived every second of the day. It just frustrates me. And just yesterday, at which university was it? Was it yesterday? Arizona State University. Muslim women who were protesting, their hijabs were taken off. What about that? Why are we not talking about that? Why are we not talking about their rights and their protected characteristics? At the end of the day, violence is a bad thing, but to protest is everyone's right. So if we want to keep safe environments, it's important for institutions, especially educational institutions, to be fair and impartial. Everyone has the right to protest and stand up against injustices. So I just wanted to say that, because Rachel always comes with her biased view. The rest of us believe in humanity. So we will stand up, even if it is against our own, to say something is wrong. Sorry, Smee, I just wanted to say that because
Yeah.
the stuff, she
Let
didn't
me
cover some of the stuff that happened.
let Rach come up. But I think Rach was at the UCLA protest, and I think Nira, what you were mentioning, was at a different campus. That's what it sounded like. But I'll let Rach, respond
Yeah,
to
so
that.
what we're celebrating is our country, the Jewish state, our ancestral homeland. So we're celebrating our country because,
At, a pro-
these can I finish? I didn't
Rachel,
interrupt you. Please let me
yeah, just
finish.
carry on. But your nonsense is
Hold on.
just honestly.
Let me
Hold on. Yeah,
finish.
let's let Rach finish, to be fair, and then I'll come back to you if we got time. Go ahead, Rach. Go ahead.
So we're celebrating our country. Jewish people, we always find the light and darkness because our entire existence, people have tried to annihilate us, tried to end our existence. So Jews, we always find light and darkness. So by playing music, by playing dancing, that's how we get through things. That's how we've gotten through things throughout our entire existence. And Taishi, if you heard my opening statement, I said there's been violence on both sides. Violence is not the answer. I'm not saying it's only the pro-Palestinian protesters. I said I saw with my own eyes violence incited by pro-Israel ralliers. But again, I'm just going to go back to what I said at the beginning. Colleges should be a safe place for students, and currently it's not, especially Jewish students. And people in the comments are tagging me saying, I have a biased view. I have this. Where's my proof? My proof is I was there. I took time out of my day yesterday to support young Jewish students who don't feel safe leaving and going to class, going to their cars, walking to the dorms. They're being attacked. That's not what this should be about. Again, I'm all about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, but this has been taken way too far. Did you see the videos of Columbia last night? They smashed in windows at the buildings and went in. That's not okay. It's not okay. UCLA is completely vandalized. There's spray paint everywhere, all over the walls. This is not okay. It's not fair. It's enough already. And students should be able to go to class. People that don't care about the conflict. There's students that go to these schools that don't have an opinion, and they're being harassed. They're not able to go to school. It's enough already.
Okay. Let me let Anira, if you
Say
can get in
some.
like a little 20-second
Yeah,
response to
that's
that.
fine.
I do want to go
I
to
can
Tayshia.
drop as well. So, Rachel, did you see the videos where pro-Israeli protesters were spitting in the face of a lot of the Afro-Caribbean students and being racist towards them? Did we see that as well? Because if you're, no, Rachel, let me finish. Then you can answer, right? And you said you wanted to celebrate. People were there celebrating their country and everything. What? You're there celebrating at a time where people are being unalived. Were there no other days? Was there no other months that you could go and do that? That's called gaslighting, Rachel. That's called gaslighting.
All right. Let Rach respond to that. But Rach, if you could, in a 30-second response, and I'm going to go to Taishi.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to respond to her. Again,
Okay.
back to my first statement, there's been people inciting violence on both sides. And listen, when they're chanting death to Israel at these protests, we need to show that we're very much alive and we're here to stay. So of course we're going to go. And thank you to the IAC for putting on such an incredible event at UCLA. It brought tears to my eyes to know that I am part of such a strong community. And we had so many people come out and support Israel.
All right. Thank you for that, Rach. So real quick, I've got one more spot. Again, I saw somebody that said that they were at the University of Utah protest. I didn't see your name in the request. Maybe I got it wrong. But if you are at any of the protests over the weekend or in the start of this week, go ahead and request. Make sure your request is in. I'm prioritizing those voices today. So a little bit different again. But I do want to get the people that were actually at
Do
the
you have
protest.
mods in your chat? Because I keep getting tagged oven for you.
No.
Yes.
So let me check. Let me check. I'm sorry about that. Listen.
No, it's okay. But
Yeah. No, we can't. Listen, guys, we can't do that, y'all. Come on. So please, I don't think I've got a mod yet, but I will be monitoring. I apologize for that. Let me go to Taishi. Tasha, your response, and then we'll go to. I see one right there. We're gonna block that person. Tasha, go ahead, and then we're gonna go to Fed and Nova. So, the question was again: Are we are the Jewish students that are in these rallies that are feeling safe? Are they? Do you feel like they're being tokenized? And then, of course, you can respond to Rach as well. Go ahead.
So I won't be responding because that person has had far too much airtime. So I will certainly not be responding to give them even more airtime. What I will say is let's just break this down, because it's very easy when you don't have a core center to get confused by gaslighting statements. Let's just break this down first of all before we get involved in the usual BS rhetoric and people get their head spun and they get confused and they don't know what's going on. It's pretty simple. We don't need to let the rhetoric and the propaganda obscure the facts. The facts are this: the very existence of Palestinians threatens pro-Zionism and pro-Israeli sentiment. It threatens their very being. And that is why when there is a pro-Palestine march, which, did I hear unalive to Israel? I don't know. Did I hear that? Or was just somebody saying that? I'm not really sure. But all the pro-Palestine marches that I know of around the world certainly do not mention that. But of course, they cannot be allowed to protest or march, because the very suggestion that somebody speaks for the rights of Palestinian people for decades and decades is so abhorrent to some people that they have to do a counter protest. Because actually what's going down is, how dare you champion the rights of these subjugated people who we've witnessed for over 6 months now being completely unalived in the way that we've seen. You know, Israel themselves has said they've dropped over, I think it's something like 100,000 tons of boom booms. And any thinking person would take to the streets and say, what the F is going on? And only an abuser and a narcissist would gaslight their victims to make them feel like they've done something wrong. So that's just fact number one. And the fact number two is, and this is actually some of these lovely Jewish TikTokers that have come out and said, I really disrespect these counter protests and these disruptions, and also the sort of, these movements that are being made towards these students that are carrying out these sort of protests. He said, because this is exactly what they want. They want to take the spotlight away from Gaza. And these are Jewish student TikTokers that are saying this in America, by the way, and I commend them. He said, this exact thing is what they want. They want to take the spotlight of Gaza and what they're doing there. The focus should not be on, I feel unsafe. Well, I tell you what, anyone can say they feel unsafe. I tell you what's actually worse is being unsafe, is being unalived, is being G-sided, okay? Why should we care more about someone feeling unsafe than people who are actually unsafe? And the last thing I will say, and again, it's not in response to anyone, as long as Palestinians are being threatened and unalived, which they actively are, they're not feeling that way, they actively are, as long as Palestine is being attacked, Israel will never be safe. So if you feel unsafe, you are literally self-perpetuating. And do not ask us to put your feelings, which is subjective and not in fact, do not ever ask us to put your feelings above facts. We will never put your feelings above human beings that are being extinguished. Understand that, and cut your BS, cut your gaslighting. I didn't address that to anyone. I don't want them to have a platform to respond.
All right. Thank you, Taishi, for that. And then we're going to go to Fed. We're going to go to Fed. And then Nova, I'm going to skip you because you were the first one to answer. I didn't even see. Rima, are you in here? I didn't even see you. My bad, fam. Good to see you. Good to see you. The comments are coming real fast, so I apologize if folks are coming in with salutations. I'm missing it. I'm trying to stay focused on the panelists, so I apologize for that. Please, and by the way, let's do public service announcement real quick. Can you please tap the screen? Please continue to tap the screen. This is a very, very important discussion, so we want to make sure that the live is protected. Thank you so much, as always, for your good work. Appreciate y'all. Okay, so we're gonna go to Fed. So same question, Fed. Do you feel that the Jewish students who have come out and said that they feel safe in these protests are being tokenized in order to push a specific agenda. How do you feel?
I mean, I think the entire situation is being tokenized, right? The fact that we're even calling them pro-Palestine protests versus anti-war protests is politicizing and tokenizing what these students are actually doing and obfuscating what it is that they're actually demanding of their universities, right? They're not protesting for Palestinian people. They're protesting against the G that is happening in Gaza, and they're protesting for their universities to stop using their funds to invest in companies that are aiding and abetting the occupation in the G side. Like, let's be clear about what it is that these students are demanding and why they're even going about. As far as tokenization of like people, every side tokenizes, right? The Zios will bring Yosef Haddad and the son of the H group leader that became pro-Israel, and Palestinians will bring anti-Zionist Jews. Like, everyone's gonna bring whoever's gonna bolster their side. Like, I don't think this is some novel thing that's only happening now. Both sides have people from both sides that agree or disagree. I don't think it's about tokenization. I think bringing up the Jewish students who feel safe is to smash the narrative that Jewish students on campus are unsafe, because which Jewish students are you talking about? That was my point from the beginning, right? Are you talking about the anti-Zionist Jews that are organizing and putting together these protests and not participating with them? Because yeah, they aren't safe. They are being brutalized by the police. Or are you talking about the Zionist Jews on campus who are crying because their feelings are hurt? Like, I don't understand what this safety nonsense is about. But also, I just want to point out, as somebody who was a former Zionist, there are organizations, Zionist organizations, that are paying disruptive people, and I always bring receipts. I will never say something without receipts. This is an organization called Shirion Collective. It's on Twitter. You can look it up, Shirion.org. They put out a call to become an agent embedded behind enemy lines at this weekend's protest. Who we're looking for: individuals who can maintain calm, cool, and collected demeanors under triggering Jew hate and pressure. Volunteers willing to wear kufias and walk in these demonstrations masked. Individuals with Arabic-sounding names and Middle Eastern appearance who may uniquely be positioned for deeper infiltration and will receive cash compensation for their vital role in our operation. So this is happening. This is real. I think a lot of the disruption that you see being perpetuated by so-called pro-Palestine protesters are in fact paid actors who are being paid to agitate and make these scenes look violent or anti-Semitic when they're really not. And also, I think everybody should note that no one is covering the violence and the vitriol and the hate and the straight up like unlawful behavior of the Zionist counter protest. I feel like the media is definitely trying to paint a narrative that these protests are anti-Semitic, but refuse to highlight the violence and the straight up disgusting things that are being said on the Zionist side. And I'm happy for once Rachel actually admitted, you know what? There is violence and vitriol happening on both sides, but why is the media only covering one side of it?
All right. Thank you for that, Fed. So we're going to go to Goldie. I believe, Goldie, you said you were at the University of
Yes,
Utah
yes. Hi there.
protest.
Yes, I was at Berkeley. I went to the Berkeley
Oh, Berkeley.
protest,
Okay, my bad.
and yes, and I was able to live stream with my family in Gaza. And I just wanted personally, if anyone's going to go to these protests, it's a good idea to probably jump on a platform where the people in Palestine, whether it be the West Bank, whether it be Gaza, are able to participate and see, because I walked from person to person and I was able to interview people and ask, what brought them there today. And they were able to speak to the people on the panel. They were able to say thank you. I brought water and I brought a lot of food and batteries for the encampment. And I plan to go to Stanford, and I'm going to go once a week because my comrades are there. I work with a few different organizations that have done the bridge and have done the port of Oakland, and I'm just there to support them in any way that I can. I will say this: there is a rule board at every one of these spaces. And if you don't follow this rule board, you will be asked to leave, even if you are pro-Palestinian. They are asking to divest. They are
Real
asking
quick.
for,
Goldie, real quick. I'm sorry.
yes, yes,
So when you
sir,
say,
go.
when you say
Mhm.
a rule board, I know what you're talking about, but for the folks in the chat that may not know what you mean,
Okay.
rule board.
Okay, so you walk on campus and there are tents everywhere. There's a kitchen, there's people getting coffee and food, and right as you walk in there is a 10-foot whiteboard, kind of
So
like you
Goldie, you
see
cutting
like in
out.
a class setting.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Now you good.
Okay.
You were cutting out.
Okay. So, okay. Awesome. Awesome. So there's a rule board. It's about, I'd say like 8 feet, 10 feet tall sometimes, and it has the rules. I took a picture of it actually. It's plain. It's very easy to see. And one of the rules is we do not engage with counter protests. We do not speak to people that are coming and antagonizing. We do not engage with anything that's going to look violent. We keep things peaceful. We keep things, no inflammatory conversations, right? So, and there were a lot of Jewish students there protesting with us, walking around, and they are not being tokenized. I do believe that that use of that word is in itself inflammatory. I think that what's happening now is what's happened in the civil rights movement and what happened when we ended the apartheid in South Africa, is that this movement has reached the schools, and I think any activist knows that once these movements reach the schools, that we're in the home stretch. We are in the home stretch of achieving our goals. I want to touch on something. Speaking of violence, and I really dislike to speak about people when they leave, but Rachel left. There's a video floating around, and she was on a live, and they were playing it, and her person, her boyfriend, or whoever he is, laughing about it. And it is her husband attacking an African American student and arguing with her on campus, and it's there. They played it, they showed it to us, and they laughed about it. So I have yet to see anybody be violent to a counter protester on my side, on the pro-Palestinian side. But I have been there when I've seen it from counter protest. So it's my kids there. I brought my mother there. I was able to give a speech there. It was absolutely a peaceful setting, and it was a space that was very comfortable. And the police that were there were very calm, and they weren't antagonistic, and they were making sure that the people that were recording had permission. So that's just my experience, and I plan to go every week and bring food to the students.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for that, Goldie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Let me go to Covey. Covey. Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. Let's go to Covey and get Covey's perspective on tokenism. How do you feel about folks saying that the Jewish students who are saying that they feel safe are being tokenized, and just the tokenism overall? What's your perspective?
So I don't necessarily think this is a tricky one, right? If you're being anti-Semitic and your first response to defend yourself is to say, I have a Jewish friend, of course, that is tokenization. In this case, though, it is just a fact that Jewish people are also protesting, right? It is a fact that Jewish organizers or Jewish students are also organizing certain protests. I mean, Naomi Klein, who is a very, very famous political scientist and one of the heads of Jewish Voices for Peace, she held a speech which I highly recommend everybody, please, everybody, especially if you are Jewish, especially if you're pro-Zionist or pro-Israel, please watch Naomi Klein's speech at one of these protests, where she explains how Zionism has actively hijacked Jewish identity and has tried to hijack Judaism as well. I think the organizers, I forgot of which university that was. I think it was Yale, if I'm not mistaken. The organizers did come forward and they did say that they don't stand for any anti-Semitism. They also said that from the top to bottom, they're not asking or they're not supporting any anti-Semitism or urging students to be anti-Semitic. They have taken a very, very clear stance in this case that they're not going to support any ism. At the same time, though, in my opinion, Smitty, these accusations are taking away from the fact that mass graves have been found in Palestine, in Gaza specifically. We are not talking about this.
And I genuinely think that pro-Israelis and the Israeli state are actively using and weaponizing and bastardizing anti-Semitism as a deflection. Every single time something big happens, something huge happens, you see pro-Israelis and pro-Zionists actively coming up here and talking about how anti-Semitism is on the rise, which is very important to discuss. Jewish people should not be held accountable for the actions of the Israeli government. The fact is, though, that mass graves are being dug up in hospitals like Al-Shifa or the Al-Nasser medical complex, and nobody is talking about it. These protesters are not only students. You have had chairs of departments getting arrested. You have had professors, tenured professors, coming out and protesting as well. You have had political scientists, you have had scholars, you've had academics in support of these students and coming out and protesting to try to attempt to label all these academics and all of these students who are very, very blatantly saying that the reason as to why they're protesting is because they do not want their universities to fund the active genocide in Palestine. To label all of them as anti-Semitic is delusional and illogical. Not only that, Jill Stein, who's a presidential candidate, who was a Jewish woman herself, was arrested at one of these protests, right? This is monumental. And to expect police to go in there and reprimand these students, you know what happened at Kent State. What happened at Kent State when the what they're called, not the Coast Guard, she is a Jewish woman, sorry, Raul.
National Guard.
When they were invited in, what happened at Kent State when the students at Kent State were protesting against Cambodia, I think they were unalived. That caused a massacre. So the National Guard, thank you. So I don't understand why people are actively trying to summon the National Guard, knowing full well that in multiple instances, when the National Guard was summoned, there were 2 instances at university protests in the 70s where students were unalived. So that's not a good idea at all. And it's a violation of First Amendment rights.
Also,
Thank you for that,
Smitty,
Covey.
I wanted to say that I think what Covey said is important because I think a lot of these anti-war protests are being forced to like come out and make these statements and position themselves as being staunchly against any form of ism. But has anyone seen any, I'm going to call them pro-war and pro-G-side protests or counter-protests? Have they actively come out and said, we're against any anti-Arab, any Islamophobia, any racism? Our problem is with Hamas. Our problem is that we want our hostages back. Why is it our problem to like qualify what we're doing as being against any isms and we're only doing this when the other side has not once, if anything, has actively come out and been doing the isms? Like, it's just so backwards to me.
Got it. All right. So we're going to let Queer jump in 1 second. Again, I just want to do a real quick announcement. Again, first, please continue to tap the screen. Please interact with the panelists as you guys have been doing. Okay, this is a very, very important subject, especially here in the States. So please continue to do that. Thank you so much. Number 2, since we've got a lot more people in, the ICJ did make a ruling today in regards to the Nicaragua versus Germany case. The ICJ, by a vote of 15-1, decided to vote against any and all provisional measures that Nicaragua put forth. So a legal victory for Germany. So that did happen earlier this morning for those who did not catch that decision that came out. Okay, so that was decided this morning. So with that being said, we're going to let Queer go. Queer, if I could ask your pronouns, just make sure we don't...
my pronouns are they, them.
They, them. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Your turn.
Hey, everyone. So this name's N, and I live in Salt Lake City. I've been organizing for, the past 6 months, various things locally. And one of the major things I've done was Salt Lake City Council, trying to get them to pass a ceasefire, which they inevitably didn't do. And persecuted the people who were going. But yesterday afternoon, the University of Utah, a student group called MECHA, Mecha organized a rally, which I was like attending, holding, a banner, and then they moved into an encampment around probably 4:30 or 5 p.m. last night, and essentially they set up the tents. We formed a circle to protect it, and there's probably 300 people there. It was growing throughout the night. And then almost all the cops in the valley, in Salt Lake City Valley, showed up in riot gear. And they said they were going to arrest people at 9. It kept getting pushed back until 11, where they started arresting people and pushing the encampment out and brutalizing the peaceful protesters. It was probably the worst thing I've seen in real life in my life. The cops were just beating people and dragging people. And and these are I'm 28, I'm 29, but these were majority of people were 20, 21, 22. And it was just such a scene. They probably had 300 cops there forming a line. It got, statewide and national headlines. And again, to the point of the other person who's saying, I think the reason why you see the pro-Palestinian movement talking about all these isms is because this is a unity movement, right? The pro-Israeli or the pro-Israel movement is a movement against liberation. It's a movement against, if you're this type of person, you don't deserve to live. You don't deserve to have a space in the world. Example, Palestinian. And I'm actually Black and Palestinian myself, so I've been very involved locally. But yeah, so that was kind of the rundown of what happened last night. 17 people were arrested. 5 were just released this morning. The other 12 are still in custody. And we don't know if the group is going to ask to establish the encampment or if they're going to dissolve it. But anyway, I think that, at least in my perspective, someone who's been organizing for 6 months, this is a flashpoint for our generation, for history. If you're not against genocide, what are you against? And it's so clear that the pro-Israeli side, and I've seen this on social media and in life when I've, been doing these protests, they are gleeful about the death. Right? It's just, yay, 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 unalive more Palestinians, yay, yay, yay. And, at least the people, the protests I'm at, we want to see one state that's democratic, that has free speech, that has freedom of religion, that it welcomes everybody. And, I don't think that the Israelis want that. They want their religious ethno state. And I don't think that that's the future that any of us should want. So yeah, it was sad to see the encampment get shut down so swiftly, but hopefully people want to come back today, and if not, at least we tried.
All right, thank you for so much for that.
Quickly,
Yeah,
can I add something really fast? Because there's a lawyer that's giving free lawyer services. You can Google him, or you can go to Instagram and look in the search bar, attorney giving free legal services to protesters. He's him and his corporation. It's CEO lawyer and he will give you all the help you need. And he's helping these protesters on these school campuses for free.
Okay, yeah, I did hear about that. I'm sure I'm not part of the core organizers for this one. So I'm sure that the Mecha folks are aware, and we have a local bail fund in Salt Lake. So
I followed you, and if you need help, tell me. I will love to help you and your comrades. That's kind of what I do within mine. I will help you. You just reach out, and I'll do the groundwork for you. I will connect.
All right, much appreciated. Yeah, as of now, I think they're just trying to get the folks bailed out, and then they're going to strategize what they're going to do next. But yeah, it's just so unfortunate. As someone who's Palestinian, I'm just I felt this way about all the actions I've done. We're really at a moral crisis in this country. All of our taxes are going to fund the literal, unaliving of so many people. And it's at this point, what do we actually stand for? Do we stand for peace? Do we stand for justice? Do we stand for liberty? Or do we stand for death? And do we stand for the destitution of our fellow citizens? I see homeless people outside of my house every single day. and yet we send billions of dollars to Israel. And I'm like, what do we really stand for at this point? And it seems like we stand more for blood, violence, colonialism, genocide than we stand for each other. And that's what the pro-Palestinian movement underground is about. It's about, are we here for each other, or are we here for people who want to hurt others? And I'm here for our people. I'm here for people who care, people who have hearts, and people who want to build a more inclusive world. And that is what you see resonating in the pro-Palestinian movement. It's a movement of the future. It's not just like, the Vietnam War protests all over again. This is a new thing that includes more people, that is more expansive, that is more loving than anything I've ever seen. So, I think that is reflective on when you compare both sides of the pro-Israeli, pro-Palestine. One is clearly the future and one just isn't.
All right. Thank you for that. Going to go down to Anira. We're going to get our final comments from Anira and Taishi, and then I'm going to look to see that today we're prioritizing folks who have been at a protest, whether in the recent past or currently at a protest right now. Again, leveraging the power of the app, right, to get people up here, right, who can talk to us directly from the protest or, again, their recent experience. Go ahead, Anira.
Yeah, I just want to say that at the end of the day, we just need to go into history. As I mentioned before, Kovi said, and also, I haven't got the whole of your name, sorry, the person at the top. Queer hair, sorry, I wanted to be correct. If you go into history, it's very clear that these type of protests have brought change, whether it's the Gulf War, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's Cambodia, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're trying to bring change. They have every right to do so. And what I do find absolutely amazing is the fact that A, we're watching unity. B, it's spreading across universities across the world. And C, it's giving young people the opportunity to come back and have a say in decision making and also have their voices heard. For me, it's important we denounce anti-Semitism. It's important we denounce racism. It's important we denounce Islamophobia. But what we won't denounce is to not stand up for justice and to not stand up for the plight of the Palestinians. As Kovi mentioned earlier, how many people have been dug up in the Al-Shafa vicinity and other vicinities? They've had zip ties. Like, why are we forgetting everything that's happening? We're not going to normalize the atrocities that are occurring in Palestine. So for me, I think it's fantastic that we're watching this. All of us are against violence, but if you're going to go along, gaslight people, obviously things are going to happen. And I think that together we are human. We're all under the humanity banner. And I think collectively we can bring change. And maybe this time we are about to bring change. And I just pray Palestine is free. I pray we all can live together. I pray we can all agree to disagree sometimes, but most importantly, love each other, value each other. And, I just want to say one last thing, and I always say this, from the river to the sea, Palestine, inshallah, will be free. And Kovi, I just wanted to say, I think you're fantastic. I really, really enjoy listening to you. Sorry, Smee. I just wanted to kind of get that in there.
I appreciate you, Anira.
No, I appreciate you too. And Rachel, I suggest you come running back because you like to get gaslight, but I think you need to come back and answer. I think it was Fed who mentioned that video, because you need to come back and be accountable for the things that were happening at UCLA. And Smitty, when I mentioned that video earlier of anti-Semitic chants, it was actually at UCLA. So it was pro-Israel protesters. And it'd be great to find out, what she thinks, because she keeps generalizing the Jewish community. There's a lot of Jewish people that are involved in this because they believe in humanity. They're anti-war. And so we have to acknowledge that we're all one. And the ones that are one will always value each and every human life. And that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Anira, thank you so much for coming up. Appreciate you, fam. We're gonna
My son said he still is your biggest fan.
Oh, I'm his biggest fan too. Appreciate that, man.
Anira, Anira, I had mentioned it, and I believe I was on the live last night, and she was on it. If you're still listening, with her husband, so it is circulating. You'll see it eventually. It was at LA in front of a ice cream shop. Her husband attacked an African American pro-Palestinian protester, and she was recording.
All right. So Rach, to be fair, Rach isn't here, so we'll address that with her if and when she comes back.
I wanted to ask the panel something. on the topic of anti-Semitism, because again, I think what the media is doing and what the pro-war, pro-G-side movement is doing is so against Jewish people. Has anyone in the comments, anyone on chat, has anyone heard about the neo-Yahtzee rally in Greenwich, Connecticut on Saturday? Has anyone seen any news coverage about the literal neo-Yahtzee
Nope.
rally
I
in
seen it,
Connecticut?
and there was 150 people there. There was over 150 people there carrying flags, and I didn't hear
What
one
about
word
the
about
one
it.
on Saturday in Charleston?
I didn't see anything about that either. This
And
is
what
the
about
first
the
time
one in
hearing about it.
Nashville and the one in Madison, Wisconsin? My point in bringing all of
Exactly.
this up is to say that there are literal neo-Yazis mobilizing right now, finding strength in this moment, and no one is talking about it. The ADL has not put a statement out. Whoever she said that put it together, they quickly, with the quickness, found $65,000 to throw a concert at UCLA to counter protest anti-war protesters, but have not